Hello everyone, I'm going to show you how to create a number counter in Cinema 4D. I recently had a project where it was dealing with statistical information and they wanted to be able to show an increase in percentage from 0 to 100%. So I went online to try to find an easier way to do this other than going into After Effects. I can easily do it in After Effects, but I wanted the text to be 3D. And I found this one plugin or preset that I can get for only $6. I know it's called Motion Inspire. And so when you click on it, that's pretty much, see how you had those numbers going up in single increment. That's the look that I wanted to be able to achieve on my own. So I didn't buy the plugin. I just looked around online to see if I could find something else. And I did. I happened to go across a tutorial done by Uri Solgowek, and he created this Cinema 4D integer numbers tutorial. Now he did it with an older version of Cinema 4D, but it was very, very clear, and it was a awesome tutorial. It was easy to understand, and I'm just remaking this tutorial, but doing it with less components. Again, because he did this with an older version of Cinema 4D, so I'm assuming that certain components weren't in place then. As you can see faintly over here, the hierarchy structure here has quite a few components there, but I'm gonna do it with only two. All right, so here's what I did. I went inside of Cinema 4D, and again, using his method, but choosing different components to achieve the same result. All right, so I'm going to go into MoGraph, and I'm going to choose MoText, and I'm going to name that MoText numbers. Doesn't necessarily have to be name numbered, but since it's going to be numbers, I'm going to name it that. Name it numbers. Okay. And then I'm going to add in a null object. So I'll choose create object null. And I'll rename that, and I'll call that controls. All right. So this is the basic setup here. All right. Now I need to be able to add a custom parameter that will allow the controls to be a control. So I'll click on the controls, and I'll go here to the option and it says user data, and I'll choose the first option that says add user data. Okay, now, and I get this dialog box here, and inside the name field I want to call it number counter. All right, and inside the data type I want to change that from float to integer. So I'll click on it and choose integer. And now we go to the next option, which is interface. That just simply means that this is how you're going to interact with this particular parameter. And so the interface right now in this integer is going to look like these up and down arrow sliders here on steps and min and max values. It's going to look like those. I'm a fan of a slider that goes from left to right. So I want to change that interface look from integer to integer slider, just because I want a slider, and this is how it's going to look. You see that right here. All right, so now that I have that set up, I'm going to stick with the default value of 0 to 100. But I also want to point out to you the steps. Now, right now it's at step 1, which means it's going to count by ones. Now, if I change it to step 2, then that means it's going to count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, so on. If I change it to 5, then it's going to count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. So since I want these to go up one increment at a time, I'll leave it at step 1. And then I'll click on OK. So we can see inside user data, inside the controls, that I already have my custom parameter, number counter, and it's as a slider, just the way we saw it inside the user data dialog box. Okay, now what we need to do is add an expression to this. So let's go to Expresso. I'll right click on controls, choose Cinema 4D tags, go down to the very bottom option and choose Expresso. And for those of you who are not familiar with Expresso, Expresso is a node-based expression editor. So that means it works much like Softimage. Softimage has ICE, and this works a lot like ICE. So I'll go ahead and drag in my controls, and I'll drag in my numbers. Now you can resize these nodes just by placing your cursor on the corners or on the edges, top, bottom, left, and right, and you'll see that your cursor state will change. All right. So I'm going to click on the corner just so I can get a little more proportionate here. You don't necessarily have to change the size of these nodes, but I like them to be a little larger than what they start off with. Okay, so the blue side or the blue corner here, if you click on that, that's going to give you all inputs. That's all the input side, and the red side is all the outputs. And so logically thinking, I want my controls to go out and to control the numbers. So it's going to go out from the controls and into the numbers. So I'm going to go click on the red corner here and go down to the option that says number counter. So now that's going to be the driver, if you will, the number counter. And then I'm going to go over here to the input, and I'm going to click on the blue corner and go down to object properties here. And the properties that I want to be affected by the number counter is my text. So I'll click on text. So now I basically have that set up and ready to rock and roll here. But right now they're not linked. So I need to link them by simply clicking on this radio button here and dragging over to that radio button and then releasing. Oh, let's try it again. Didn't want to do it for me. There we go. All right, so now we got it. And now you can see it immediately took effect. So now my number counter is affecting my text. So I can close out of my expression editor because I no longer need it open. And I can go to my controls. And inside user data, notice that now this indicates that my number counter is driven by an expression. So I'll just go ahead and click on here and drag over. And notice how now it changes the numbers to mimic exactly the numbers that's in the counter. So that's great. So now at this point, the tutorial is pretty much done. But if I wanted to take it a step further and try to achieve the same look that Uri had with less components, all I need to do is just go into my numbers, which is my motext, and I'm going to change the caps. So I'll change the caps to fillet cap and end cap to fillet cap. And instead of using the fillet type of convex, I'll use the fillet type of engraved. And there we have it. Have that look with less components. Now you get some artifacting going on. I noticed that there was some artifacting in Uri's tutorial as well. But you can change or get rid of the artifacting just by changing the radius of your fillet cap. That's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed the tutorial. It was simple for me when Uri did it, and I hope that it was simple for you when I did it. Take care.